So somebody did ask me a question about spirituality. They are a person who's into spirituality. It's very important to them. And I grew up in very spiritual communities, but the question they asked me was, why are you so against it? What damage do you have that caused that? And it's like, well, first of all, I don't hate spiritual people, people who believe in a spiritual world. I see them kind of as developmentally disabled. They're culturally disabled, developmentally disabled, that they believe in something for which there is no evidence. So it is hard for me to have respect for that. But I'm severely outnumbered. Most people believe in a spiritual world because they were told there was one. Because it's really easy to believe in. And it's also really easy to spread that and manipulate people using spirituality. And sometimes it's kind of fun. Like, I want to believe in lots of gods. That's one of the things I like about Hinduism. They have so many gods. It sounds really fun. Some of the monotheistic gods that I've heard about, like Abrahamic ones in particular, really sound like the god's an asshole. So you might want to study the gods you believe in and see if they're really ones you want to believe in. And decide if you believe in them as kind of archetypes. Like I could believe in Gaia, the living earth as an entity. I could do that, sure. But do I think that Gaia has a consciousness that is going to channel through me and I should make videos that tell you I'm channeling Gaia to you? If I did that, I'd probably want to be a cute chick and stuff, and I could start my whole cult and everything around that. Be really cool. But I don't think the earth is conscious at a level that cares about me. I realize we can see the earth as a whole organism. I also understand my own body is a conglomeration of a whole bunch of organisms working in ways we're only beginning to understand. Like as we study gut fauna and flora and how that can affect depression and stuff and all the shit that lives on my skin. I mean, I'm especially a dirty person, so I have a lot of shit living on my skin. But it seems to protect my skin, you know? And the way I live out in the forest, away from a lot of contaminants, for some reason I don't get sick hardly ever. In fact, I can't remember the last time I was sick with an actual cold or a fever. I mean, I had an accident that was really bad, but that was a more obvious problem. I have barfed before. I drank too much alcohol. Don't do that. It's bad for you, probably. Didn't kill me. I'm going to end up being an 89-year-old dude who's been drinking all his life. Hopefully that's not true, because I would actually like to build a community that uses alcohol in a better way than I do, but I have an excuse that I'm bored as shit. And it's cheap as hell, too. The place I live has alcohol. It's cheap, super cheap. So, should I have better posture? Should we have that be a societal goal? Pretty sure we shouldn't make a rule against people slumping, but I also don't want to be a bent over old man. That's why I think stuff like yoga would be fine to have. Some Ashtanga yoga, I'm a big fan of that. Ashtanga yoga seems cool. And having a lot more people not just be knowledge workers, but everybody, even if they are a knowledge worker, having some other work that they do that's physical and not just in a gymnasium, because gymnasiums seem like a waste of time to me. I understand why people use them. I'm sympathetic. Great. Do it. But landscaping is better for you. I'm currently trying to cover up that I forgot whatever I was talking about. Dang it. You need to have actual conversations with people. I had some visitors a while back. That was really nice. Well, one visitor made it to the place, and the other two I visited in town. And there's a guy I talk to sometimes, and then there's another guy I talk to sometimes. But mostly I have no real social contact. I should start a podcast that would actually simulate actual conversation pretty well, and I could direct it towards good conversations, towards selected topics and subtopics that everybody would read about it and know the basic terminology, so we weren't all just fighting about shit that doesn't matter, and we weren't even using the same words, because a lot of the conflict we have in society, people are not even using the same definition of words, which is like your whole conversation, just give the fuck up. It is a useless waste of time. I call these polluted words. Words that don't mean anything because they get used in too many different ways that divide people on purpose. I think it's intentional. I think the goal is, with any new term that comes up, somebody else is going to make a twisted version of it and use the same term potentially, but other definition, and that they're just going to use that to fight each other, and it's just like, you are all fucked up. Social justice fundamentalism, social justice warrior, social justice in general, all that shit has often nothing to do with social justice or anything I recognize as freedom or good. In fact, some people seem to think freedom is a right-wing value. I mean, there's been people who told me I'm a right-winger because I say something that's pro-freedom. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? If you've taken over leftism to the degree where classic liberalism, which is freedom-oriented, has been freedom-oriented. If you take it over to a degree where you've decided freedom doesn't fit in with liberal values, you've ruined liberalism. You've ruined free speech. You've ruined public discourse. You've become some kind of Maoist, limited-thinking, dangerous individual who thinks that everybody who doesn't think as you do should be killed or oppressed or shouldn't be able to work. That shit is dangerous as hell. Is that conservative of me to think freedom is good? There's a book called What's Our Problem by a guy named something or other. Look it up. And it talks about that issue and how it's infected universities and turned them from places of free thought into places of cultural programming where people are afraid to speak, where only certain kinds of people can ever even be hired to train your children. And those are tax-funded. So tax-funded propaganda machines. And the people who get programmed that way actually think they're right. They actually think that they're fighting for justice and good. And they're not doing it at all. They're fighting for slavery and genocide. They're fighting for the state. Bad idea. And I can go off on rightists or leftists, however you want. Somebody today was trying to pigeonhole me as I'm supposedly supporting racism and white supremacy. Really? Living in a place where I'm a minority? Being against anything resembling Nazism or anything like that? My fucking grandfather fought in World War II. I'm very against Nazism and National Socialism. I'm against government authority of all kinds. And government authority is supported by both the left and the right. I'm probably just going to have to unfriend this chick and block her. Because she's decided that, partly because of my gender and race, that therefore I'm a genderist and racist. Which seems kind of genderist and racist to me, since I don't hold the things she's trying to say I hold, and I don't support even the candidate, the political leader that she thinks I might support, because she's decided that. It's like, no, I would never vote for that person or the person you would support. I'm against all of that shit, and I've never done it. I'm the individual who is on your side, partly for certain things. And the other part of what you believe is the racist, sexist shit you're against, just in a different form. And if I'm just going to hear all the time what a sexist, racist fuck I am because of my demographic, where does that leave me? Doesn't that make me feel kind of bad? Like, you hate me because of my sex and gender and race, and I'm not going to take that personally at all. No, I'm going to kind of move you out of my life. You're going to get cut out of the conversation. Even if everybody around you agrees with you, and that's the popular viewpoint you have. You're thinking like a fucking fundamentalist. You're not thinking. And so I'm losing respect for this person who seems nice enough, and in the past she thought I was a good person, and I've talked to her a little bit. She seems all right in some cool ways, but if she's going to decide that everybody who doesn't think like she does, who's on this other side, is all evil, she doesn't understand the other side very well, because a bunch of them are trying to get by, and they're fighting against things that are evil, just like she thinks she is, and she probably is. Well, she is. But it's like you're both being tools. You're tools of the system to fight each other, while authoritarianism exists above you to crush you and use you like slaves. That's what's actually going on. And she does not see it at that level. She only sees the other side as bad. And now she's trying to say, I'm the other side, even though I don't believe the shit she thinks I do. That just sucks for everyone. We all lose. And I stay out of it. And as I think about inviting people, I have to figure out, like, do I cut all of those people out? All the people who are on one side or the other? Do I have an event? This would be funny. Do I have an event where I invite all the most extreme people to an event, and then I stick them all in the same place? It could be educational. It could be helpful. Or it could be a really big, fucked up mess. But hell, maybe I'd video it. Fuck it. And if I want to do that even on my own land, because I don't want that much bad energy existing in my forest. My trees might hear it and suffer. You know, maybe I should have an event like that somewhere else. And actually I should, this is an interesting other idea, is I should actually develop some event hosting spaces that aren't mine and that other local people could profit off of. In other words, find one I can rent that has a bunch of space. And I know of some land way up there in the hill that would be perfect for it. It's just fields and stuff. And if they could make money off of having events there that I don't feel like hosting myself because I'm too private and want to create longer term communities, but they would be willing to host week-long events or 4-day things or something, that could actually help out the economy up there. And I could still have a filter where I don't invite people who are especially violent or bad in some way. But I tell you, if you invited these both sides together, oh my God, I would definitely want that to be on camera. I think that would actually be educational, even for the people involved. And that we could not do things to encourage divisiveness, which would occur naturally. Divisiveness? I don't know how to say things. But we could actually... Well, the thing is, you couldn't tell people ahead of time, could you? Like, you couldn't tell them, I'm inviting you specifically to a thing that has the other people that you hate. You could have it be some other theme, you know, like making society be awesome, and even have 2 different web pages where it shows society as being awesome as being this kind of people or those kind of people, but it actually is one event, and everybody comes to this event all being idealistic that they're going to be with people like them, who agree with them, who talk like them, who use their words the right way, and you then just mix them all together. And shit would hit the fucking fan. Because people take this shit really personally as an attack upon all their personal beliefs and values. If anyone doesn't agree with them, that would be the most fucked up social experiment I could think of. There's another one I can think of that's also really fucked up. But that one actually might be useful for society. Where you found out how much people hate people who aren't like them. And people found out for themselves that they hate nice people who are otherwise responsible and care about their kids and try and do good things. You would still filter out assholes. But you would try and find people who are essentially victims of being on one side or the other, but are otherwise good people, and you would mix them, because then they might start to realize that's not your enemy. Those people love their kids. Those people want society to function well. They want safety. They want security. They want a better future. Both sides, the ones I would pick anyway, would be people who care about the environment. The environment is a massively controversial topic, and people hate the other people when they talk about the environment, even though we should all be on board with saving the environment. I mean, that's a point of thing we should have total agreement on, and how to do it, too. And my way, of course, is the right way. Sorry about that, but I do have strong opinions on it, and I'm not looking at government solutions. I'm not looking at government control. I'm not looking at uncontrolled use of the environment either. That's a tricky bunch of shit to figure out. Like, how are we going to protect the commons? I guess is the basic question. How are we going to protect the commons? And the ocean is one, which we fucked over completely. The commons is probably the best example of a commons that we fucked over, because we have international law in some places that try and benefit their own people. But as soon as we get out in international waters, we can just gill net and kill everything all we want, for the most part. You shut the fuck up, Rooster. He's not going to shut up. It's my fault for even being here. It's his fault for being in a cage. It's his owner's fault for putting him in a cage. But that wouldn't that be just... Can you imagine it? And would people... Maybe the goal would be that people actually walk out of that, if you did design it correctly, that they walk out of it having friends on the other side, having empathy for people on the other side, having heard each other's stories. And maybe at first they do think they're going to a thing with all just people like them. I'm afraid we would have to lie about that. Otherwise they would come in ready to fight, and you'd be recruiting people who want to fight. But what if you recruited them into the same space, mixed them in together, and hopefully most of them would respond positively, like, wow, these people think things are different than I am, and they're still not bad people. Oh, that guy's gay, and I've never met anyone gay before. Yeah, you have. You just don't know it. And they're not a bad person. They're perfectly nice. And they're not flaming... I had to censor a word there. See, that's so annoying. They're not, just totally flamey and having sex everywhere and butt sex everywhere. And it's like, no, they're a normal person, has a normal job, and they happen to like the same gender. Who gives a fuck? Maybe that's the attitude they would come out with. Because that's the attitude I ended up with. I was raised to think gay people were flawed, bad, and sinful. And after being alive and also being very suspicious that was the case, met tons of gay people who really, I don't care if they're gay at all. And there's a whole bunch of other shit I just don't care about. It's not my problem. It's not my business. Live and let live. Be a freedom-oriented person. The other crazy idea I had, I'll just give it to you real quick here, because it's an even worse idea. And that is to invite a whole bunch of pseudo-spiritual gurus to an environment with a bunch of followers who are already pretty committed to not following anything. Like, invite a whole bunch of people who don't even believe in a spiritual world. This gets into a movie you should watch, which is called Kumari, I think. It was done by an Indian guy, and he pretends to be a cool guru guy and finds lots of people who want to follow him. Because people really want to follow stuff. They love to follow stuff. And that's something I've never been able to do because I was raised in a system that wanted me to be a follower, but unfortunately it did not fit with my rational thought, and so I had to leave that. And that caused me the epistemological journey of having to figure out what the hell's true or not, which is very tricky. So what if we did invite a bunch of gurus in? We could even invite the Kumari guy in. He'd be extra funny. But what they don't know, they think they're a special invitee, and there's a website with their profile on it, and there's times that they're going to give talks and everything. And then we got all these people who are pretty confirmed as not believing in any shit at all. And all those people are perfectly polite to the spiritual leaders initially. And the spiritual leaders give their talks and they get lots of positive feedback because they're people too. And they're just trying to get by, unfortunately, by manipulating and lying to people or being insane and delusional. One of those, or whatever. And so all these people, everybody's having a good time, and the spiritual leader is like, oh, I'm going to be able to pick up all these cool followers and stuff, and these are just all potential clients for my egoism. And then slowly they meet the other spiritual leaders because they didn't realize how many there would be there, and they realize there's this marketplace of spiritual ideas out there which is inherently threatening to them. So they're going to already start conflicting with other spiritual leaders, and they're going to be jealous that somebody's being listened to and that they aren't as much or whatever. And then I don't know how you'd handle the second stage of it, if at all. But you probably would do some shit with it, right? If you want to fuck shit up and it's a cultural experiment. And you slowly have these non-believers in anything say, well, I have this question. I have this other question. And ask them in polite ways, and don't create conflict or drama, but require that people provide the epistemological justification for their, guru beliefs. And, wow, I would actually go to that. I would even pretend to be a guru for it, or I could just go as a participant. But I could do it. That'd be super fun. I don't think anything bad would happen out of it. It could be really enlightening. And a bunch of the stuff that the gurus say is probably really cool and awesome. And we would want to highlight that. And, if somebody's going to say, let's be nice to each other and let's be good people, great. There's a whole bunch of good shit gurus say. There's reasons people like them. So I'm not saying that it'd be like a total setup to make the gurus look like idiots, but unfortunately, if you believe in the spiritual world, you're kind of already signed on for that. Because I don't think those gurus experience that much. They don't have direct contact with... You do see some events where you have a bunch of spiritual leaders on stage and they've all got their fancy robes and their magic hat that makes them more spiritual. Because if you have a magic hat, you're way more spiritual. If I did go to it as a guru, well, first of all, my face is out there a lot, so I don't think I'd get away with it. But it would be really funny. Maybe I could change some visual shit enough. Actually, even if I just cut my hair and shaved and wore a suit, I could be like a Jim Jones kind of guru or something. I could get some big sunglasses, get some Kool-Aid. Jim Jones probably said a bunch of really attractive shit. That's how you attract followers. But boy, did that end up fucked up. I mean, that's like, your stereotypical example of why cults don't work out well. In Heaven's Gate. And the thing is, there's not even that many examples of these cults that actually go way fucked up. Most of them just are kind of fucked up. Like there's that guy in Hawaii, Buddha Fields, I believe it is. I think they might have renamed it. I studied all the cults that there are that I could get my hands on, or my eyes on. And cults are super interesting because we want that. But if they're made of just total shit thinking, if they're not rational, I'm out. And if there's anybody I would like to kind of recruit, it would be rational thinkers who also want community. In a sense, they want a cult-like experience, but no irrational shit and no trapping people, having everyone be successful, us all working for each other, and the actual leader, which I guess I can be. I can play that fucking role. I mean, my only actual qualification is I own a bunch of land, and I think about a lot of shit, and I think about all the complexities of how we create communities. So if there's any guru-ness that I can have, it's providing that. And I'm going to die, which is really convenient, because that way I can't continue to control people very long. And I'm not going to try and control them in a bunch of ways anyway, but I'm going to set up a control system, a culture, and that protects nature. That's a big one for me. So there's stuff I'm not flexible on. And then try and set up these groups that operate in functional, positive, healthy ways. Maybe one of those would fit with you. Maybe this is a recruiting video for my cool cults and shit. That'd be great. And I could invite just awesomest people. The kind of people who don't want to be in a stupid cult. The kind of people who avoid all that shit. And where else are they going to go? There's nowhere for that. There's so many pseudo-spiritual events, you know. There's just tons of it. Like Mind Valley is one that comes to mind that's currently popular. And, you know, has all this pseudo-spiritual stuff stuck in with a bunch of young, successful people. And it's like, what if there's some of those people who don't like the pseudo-spiritual shit and like the community part and being among other successful people who are trying to think about life? Maybe they'd be great recruits. Maybe I should recruit from the Mind Valley people. Sounds good, doesn't it? I love it. Maybe I'll do it.